Or escape. Or escape justice. Serikali iko na mkono mrefu.
Itakushika huko kwenye huko.
Yeah, so inflated up to the amount which you are owed. For example, if the proceeds from the agricultural produce amounts to, let's say, 1 million and you are owed 750, you only get your 750, the 250 goes back to the owner of the produce.
Yeah.
In some instances, especially banks will always pay you immediately. Like if you have a judgment against the bank, a bank will always pay you because they don't like the embarrassment of, let's say, auctioneers going there or things. So the moment you send auctioneers, they will pay you immediately.
And they're not just going to give you because the court said.
Exactly.
I mean, you need to figure out a way to get it out of them.
Because if you go through the entire litigation, hello and welcome to the Sisters-in-Law podcast. My name is Beverly Mokaya and I'm here with
Aquila Mokaya. In this podcast, we discuss matters law.
From talking about family law, employment law, contracts law, commercial law, and general dispute resolution, we've got you covered.
Remember to like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment down below on probably matters that you'd want us to talk about or even questions that you have. So in today's episode, we are going to be discussing about execution generally.
Yeah, and not execution in the sense of the needle.
Well,
that doesn't happen in Kenya anymore. So it's execution based on how do you enforce a judgment. Because mostly you would be able to go through a legal process, like you go to court, you take someone to court, and then there's a judgment against them, but you're unable to enforce it. Let's say, for example, you've been awarded 100 million. How do you get that 100 million from that person, considering you're not able to get it from them before?
They're not just going to give you because the court said.
Exactly.
I mean, you need to figure out a way to get it out of them.
Because if you go through the entire litigation process or the entire court process and you're not able to enforce it, then it's pointless. Just waste. And there are actually cases where people go through the entire process up to judgment, they get a judgment, and then they never get their money.
Yeah, I know. And that's a very, is it like a murky area? Because you cannot, there's no point of paying an advocate to go to court for you to get compensation or for you to get paid or for you to get something that you are meant to get initially before the litigation, and you still don't get it. So now like you spend more money on litigation, but you still don't get what you are looking for.
So in short, you're at a loss.
Yeah, precisely.
So luckily, the law provides a lot of different ways on how someone can execute. At least that's a legal term that you can go use. I need to execute this judgment.
Yeah.
And how people can execute a judgment and how they can get their fruits of judgment. Yeah. So there are a lot of them. There is I'll just mention them in like I'll just list them and then we'll talk about them one by one. So there's something called garnishi proceedings. It's where, for example, there's your money in the bank somewhere, and then your lawyer can attach that the money of the what's the name of that person?
The JD, judgment creditor and judgment.
The judgment data, So the other option is attachment of property, attachment and sale of property. Let's say, for example, the person who you're trying to execute against has property, so you can get the court to attach that. Then
we have first the last one. I almost said it now, but it's supposed to be the last one, the one for arrest and committal to civil jail. That's actually the last one if somebody doesn't really have the money. For example, if maybe I'm married, and then I acquire property, but I acquire it in the name of my spouse. It means there's no way that property can be attached or sold. So therefore, it means the only thing that they can do to me is that I can only be committed to civil jail. But also, if I refuse to pay, like I just refuse to pay.
Yeah. And I think it's important at this point to mention that these are two different things. There's crime and then there's civil matters.
Yes.
So we're talking about civil matters here, because civil matters is where you have a, like, let's say, a money judgment that you need to enforce. If it's a crime, you'll just go to jail.
Yeah.
Go to prison, yeah, and you'll be imprisoned, and that's the, because usually it's crimes against the state. Even if it's against a person, it's usually said that it's against the state. That's why it will be the state against person X. Yeah. So we're talking about civil matters. And I think you forgot to mention the last one, attachment of salary.
Yes.
Your salary can be attached.
Okay, so now we can start like from the first one on the garnishee proceedings, like, as we go down, so that we can now have like maybe some sort of clarity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So garnishee. So a garnishee application is usually made. Let's say, for example, there's a judgment and you have been awarded 10 million, right? Okay. Or 100 million. And let's say it's against an insurance company, for example, in this case. I think I'd use that because I've experienced a lot of that. It's against X insurance company. X insurance company owes you 100 million, right? You have tried to get X insurance company to pay you your money,
but they haven't.
But they haven't. In some instances, especially banks will always pay you immediately. Like if you have a judgment against the bank, a bank will always pay you because they don't like the embarrassment of, let's say, auctioneers going there or things. So the moment you send auctioneers, they will pay you immediately. Yeah. But things like insurance companies, which are so used to, nowadays they're always going down every other day, sometimes they usually take long before they pay you. So this insurance company owes you 100 million. And you get wind, because of course, as a lawyer, your lawyer would probably have people in different banks and things like that. You get wind that this insurance company has deposited
100 million
in this specific account, or even if it's 50 million, because sometimes you don't have to get the entire sum at once.
Yeah.
Because 100 million is a lot of money anyway. Yeah. So what you do, your lawyer will go and make an application in court and say, now it will attach the bank where the insurance company has a bank account with money inside. So you say that this bank holds money on behalf of this insurance company, and we would like to attach that bank.
Attach the
account of that insurance company, so that the money will be paid directly to
now the judgment credit.
Yes,
data.
Now the person who's ordered the money.
Yes.
Yeah. So generally that's how it will happen. So what usually happens, the bank will be, it's called a garnishee nisi, something like that. So to just call the bank to court to say whether that bank account actually has money, right? So if the bank account has money, then it means that that bank is not allowed to transfer that money
to any other account.
Yes. So it's like you put a block on it, like a caveat. For example, if you understand land matters, it's like a caveat. You say that this one, the money in this account is not allowed to be transferred to another party.
Yeah.
So that is if there's money in the account. Of course, the bank will come to court and say there's money, or if there's no money, of course, the process is in a shiapo. If there's money, it will be attached, and then now they'll give a final order where that money will be transferred now to the person who's owed the money.
Oh, wow. That's actually very interesting, and it makes it easier in the sense that if you follow like an insurance company, you'd always, like the other day, we had a matter, an insurance company was supposed to pay, to pay now the one who had the judgment. But we've been following them for the longest. You could have come tomorrow. Your checks have not been signed.
Yeah.
You wonder, like, how long does it take to sign a check? But if you can go for garnishee proceedings, then you should actually go for it, because it makes you receiving the fruits of your judgment very easily. And then now we'd go to maybe attachment and sale of property.
Actually, before you go to that, I think I'd like to mention that with garnishee, you have to be very fast and stealth. Like you have to do it with so much stealth. Pole, like no one is, the other party is not supposed to know.
Oh no.
Because if they know,
they will transfer the
before.
Yes. Oh no.
That's why when you put the application in court, you don't attach the other party. You just, you just attach the bank.
Party, wow, that's interesting. So that was when they were transferring the money
because
without
if they transfer
knowing
the money, then it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's like proceeding will end before it started. So now let's go to like attachment and sale of property. So for example, I own these apartments, and the apartments are valued at 100 million. And the judgment that was issued, it was declared that the compensation that I require is 100 million. So it therefore means that we're going to attach this property and it's going to be sold by, of course, of auctioneers, and then I'll be paid my money, regardless of whether you want it or not. Whether you want the property to be sold or not, because I have to enjoy the fruits of my judgment. Something interesting that I also came to learn just the other day is that we can also attach agricultural produce. If I'm an agricultural farmer,
if you're a farmer,
if I'm a farmer, so I do agriculture, and what I plant is maybe maize, but I don't. The land that I'm planting the maize on is leased. It's not land that I own, yours, because now I would have attached the land. But now, because I just own the maize, it means we'll attach the maize or the cassava or the whatever that is, so that now, whether it's harvested, it cannot be sold. If it's sold, all the proceeds come to me, so that I can enjoy the fruits of the judgment that was issued against you for me.
And I think it's important to mention that you will be compensated up to the amount which you are owed. For example, if the proceeds from the agricultural produce amount to, let's say, 1 million, and you are owed 750, you only get your 750. The 250 goes back to the owner of the produce. But generally the attachment and sale of property is the typical auctioneering processes that people know about. Auctioneers wamenikujia, there are auctioneers at my door, what can I do, you know.
They also realize that if we co-own property, for example, we co-own, the way like people co-own land. If the land is, let's say, 10 acres, and I own 5 acres and you own 5 acres, if there's a judgment against me, it's important to note that they're only supposed to attach and sell what is mine, like now the share that I have. So it's going to be, I'm going to take the acres that I own, the acreage, let's say we said 5, we'll sell mine and we'll leave yours. In as much as, even if the title deed is 1, we are going to just share my own share. So that now you're not prejudiced and you do not owe the money. Yes.
I think there's an important concept that we need to discuss regarding this issue, because some people usually want to transfer their property very quickly when they realize that they owe someone money, and let's say, for example, they're going to come for their stuff. There's something called objection, like objector proceedings, whereby, for example, if I attach, let me use the example of the land where you said you own 5 acres and I own 5 acres. If I attach the entire land and you're the only person who owes someone money, the other person who owns part of the property, I can go to court and object and say part of the 5 acres belong to me. They're not yours. So the court will ordinarily just allow the person to attach only your part of the property. But there are some conditions that the court will consider. If you recently transferred the property, the objection will not pass.
Because that is, of course,
because you are clearly trying to
not pay,
circumvent the entire process. So if you think you can quickly transfer your property, sometimes it will not work. Of course, the court usually looks at different circumstances and things like that. But in most times I've seen, the court will rule against the objector in the event that, let's say, the property has been transferred
just recently during the litigation or something.
Mostly if it's the auctioneering process now, like we've said, attachment and sale of your property, the auctioneers will come and give you a notice. It's called a proclamation notice. They'll give you, I think it's 14 days or 7 days sometimes, depending on, after they've gotten warrants of attachment. They go to court, get warrants, and then they come to your door, and let's say they look at your office or at your house, and then they say, do you have a TV, a Samsung TV, this, this number of inches and whatever. And then you have, let's say, this Rampton's fridge or a Samsung dispenser and whatever, all those things. And then now later on, after 14 days or after 7 days, if you've not paid, they come and collect everything forcefully. And remember, the reason why you should not wait for auctioneers to come is because they will also take the auctioneering fees. Lawyers don't pay auctioneers. Auctioneers pay them. So from whatever they will take from your house, they will sell it themselves. They give the lawyer the money for the judgment creditor, and then they take the auctioneering costs, and then the rest will get back to you or not. Because sometimes they will lie. Sometimes they will just write that we sold this at this price. And yes, they sold it to their friends and things like that, because they are, anyways, just messed up. So just make sure you pay. If you're in a position to pay, just pay.
Just pay, yeah. Then now we can move to like attachment of salary. That one is mostly on children matters. Like it's mostly on children matters.
Let's say where a parent has refused to pay
school fees
child
or maybe just
maintenance and things like that.
Yeah.
And you're a civil servant somewhere, you have a pay slip and you're getting this amount of money every month. Yeah.
It's actually important to know that the court, we are not, like the court doesn't try, because the end goal of this whole thing is that both parties get justice. So the court is not trying to like take, if you earn 100,000, for example, the court is not going to take the whole amount of money. Yeah. But that is not an encouragement for you to be deadbeat, be it mother or father or whichever, or even if you are owing me money. Yeah. It doesn't mean that the court is going to take the whole amount. It cannot take the 100,000. That's because that's the example we used. It's going to strictly take a third.
Yeah, a third of your salary.
Yes, like a third of your salary to now go to paying the judgment.
Your debt.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for example, let's say you're a dad or you're a mom. Okay, mostly it's just dads. Yeah. That's the common thing.
We're just not being feminists. Yeah, we're just saying.
It's just a common thing that happens in court. Maybe a mother will take you to court because you refuse to pay maintenance for your child. Yeah. And you're saying you don't have money, but you know if she's a baby mama, she'll probably know you're a civil servant or let's say Kwale County or something, and they know your TSC number or they know your.
We can always find you.
Yeah, they will just put an application in court and say this person works as a teacher, for example, they're government employed. This is their TSC number. So
this is their job group.
Their job
so
group.
This is what they earn.
This is how much they earn.
So even if you're promoted, the 1/3 is going to increase.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So we are attached. At least this is how much they owe me. If we attach a third of their salary for this period, they would have paid me to completion.
Yeah.
So a third of your salary will be attached, and someone will be paid. Like, one way or another. So even if you were unwilling and you thought that you couldn't, you would be able to circumvent or escape. Or escape justice. Yeah, so a third of your salary can be attached.
Yeah. And then also like the final one, which is always the last thing to do. You cannot do it as the first way of execution. You cannot. So it's like arrest and committal to civil jail. You can't be arrested as the first thing. We must first get to see if you have property, if you have a salary, like if you have something that we can attach and get the money away from you. But if you realize that maybe you're a pauper, for example,
and we have tried every other way,
like you see, like those guys, be it male or female, who ensure that, as I had said earlier, ensure that they have transferred all their property to their spouses. Now, to my name, there is nothing.
There's nothing.
Now, I've given my spouse everything.
Or you transferred, property to a company.
Yes.
To your company.
Or a trust.
Yeah.
It now means that I have no property. It's just I'm just the only one. Maybe my phone and maybe a computer. And if your judgment is 100 million, it means there's nothing much that can be done. So now we can make an application for committal to civil jail. Mostly, I think is that they put it there so that they can threaten people, like threaten you to pay, get a date from somebody else to pay for you. Because now who likes to go and eat githeri and beans at committee or something? Yeah. Though you're not like kept at the same place with the criminals, it's like a civil jail that is different, but you're not treated any specially.
So they say.
Yeah, like the food is the same. If you go
you're still confined.
Yeah, like you're still in prison.
Important things.
Yeah, but you see, the other thing to note is that the person who takes you to jail, who commits you to jail, pays per day some fees for you to stay there. So for that committal to civil jail, it could be they could commit you for maybe 2 weeks, and then they come mention it to see if you have gotten money. Maybe you've borrowed from some sort you can pay. Yeah.
But majorly it's usually 6 months. And what the court will normally do is it will issue something called a notice to show cause. So like they call you to show cause as to why
you should not be committed to civil jail. Like at least I can pay 100,000 per month.
Or can we work out an installment plan or a payment plan where I can pay in this installments and this and that, so that please you don't take me to jail. Yeah. So mostly you would find that someone will come and explain, okay, I have this money, I'm expecting this money from the county, I delivered something, like I did a tender for them and they had to pay me, so that's the reason why I have not been able to pay. So of course the magistrate or the judge will weigh their options and see whether you should be committed to civil jail or you can work out a payment plan.
But if you're a notorious debtor, those notorious ones who don't pay.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the ones who always, when there's something, there's a notice to show cause, they will come and they'll say, oh, I'm coming to pay, I promise.
And then they issue another notice to
again,
show cause.
And you can't pay. Because, you know, also when you go for an NTSC, that's a notice to show cause, you must have an amount, you must deposit an amount in court.
Sometimes,
so if they say that deposit like maybe 5 million shillings, so that now we can start. If it's 100 million, you can't tell me you have 200,000. Does that make sense? Will you pay me till eternity?
You
know. So when you come to show cause why you should not be committed to civil jail, you must have something like to show good faith. Like, I actually intend to pay.
Yeah.
I just have 10 million. I will give you the 10. Let me give 10 million to court. Then we can start paying in installments till I finish.
And it's very important to note that it's not, you won't be committed to civil jail only when you've not paid any amount. Even if you've paid some of it and you've discontinued your payments or things like that, you can still be committed to civil jail.
Yeah.
Your salary can still be attached. Your property can still be attached, or there can still be a garnishee order against
you. Yeah.
And we are done.
Thank you so much.
So that was very educating.
Yeah.
So I hope you've learned, and I hope you will share it with your friends who don't know about it. So thank you for watching. See you next time.
Remember to share, like, subscribe, comment down below on maybe any other questions or what you'd want us